Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. It is exactly 9:23 a.m. and we are now going to be talking with a lovely young lady, Zaakirah Vadi, who is the campaign manager for Defend Our Democracy. And not only is she working on this initiative, she's going to tell us a little more about Defend Our Democracy. She is still involved with the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation in Lenasia. Zaakirah Vadi, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the program.
Walaikum assalam. Jazakallah for having me on your show.
Lovely to have you here. Don't you have enough on your plate that you're having to take this on as well?
It has been a crazy year, but I think that could be the case for everyone in the country. I think people are generally under pressure, and particularly when it gets to this time of the year, I think people are quite drained as well. But Alhamdulillah, we need to carry on doing what we're doing.
Absolutely, with passion. And it's all about, obviously, the country, the people, and better living conditions for each and every one of us. So tell us a little bit about, we know all about the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. As you know, we engage with the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation on a regular basis. But Defend Our Democracy, what is it all about and how have you become involved with them?
So this was an initiative that started last year sometime. I was still at the Kathrada Foundation formally, and a couple of struggle veterans approached the Kathrada Foundation indicating that things are getting quite bad. I think it was just before the July 2021 riots, and there was a sense of great tension, societal tension, political tension, and that there was a need to intervene in some way or the other. And together with a range of other organizations, this campaign idea was brought up and was then formally constituted as a campaign. We've therefore continued as a campaign for the period of the year. Earlier this year, we held a conference that was in July, and was the Conference for Democratic Renewal and Change. And this conference basically indicated that we now need to be looking at building a national movement focused on the issues of tackling corruption, dealing, with state capture, empowering people to become more active in their democracy. And so the idea of a movement was born, and I think we're currently in the transition period at the moment as we begin to formalize this movement.
With this, the subject matter at hand for this morning obviously is support for electoral amendment bill by the MPs, and you're going to go into much more detail about that with us. Would this be your first main initiative as Defend Our Democracy is concerned? And if this is a win for you, what's that going to mean for Defend Our Democracy? Inshallah, it
So
is a win.
Inshallah. I mean, there have been significant other programs that we've held. Last year, this time we were busy preparing for Anti-Corruption Week.
Okay, I'm aware of that. I'm aware of that. Yes, well done.
And we've been involved in a range of other activations, be it around the Gauteng health crisis, mobilizing people in relation to it. And similarly, on different fronts, in July last year, I think we managed to pull together people from different sectors of society. So, from the religious sector, from business, from labor, etc., to collectively condemn what was taking place and provide a sense of leadership to people in that very difficult period. And I think, like that, there have been numerous other examples, but this is certainly, I think, a big one for us. We've managed to together with a range of other civil society organizations, now form a coalition around a campaign for electoral reform. And I think it's going to it's something that we anticipate we may make some gains by December, but we're also aware that there may well be a very long road ahead.
Obviously, you're going to get a lot of pushback because when I look at, the press statement, I do see that out of a total of 330 votes, 230 members of parliament voted for the bill, 98 rejected it, and 3 abstained from the vote. The majority of the votes in favor of the bill were attributed to the ANC, EFF, and Al Jamaa, while other parties, the DA included, rejected the bill, citing concerns. So, I'm kind of wondering about the pushback, number one. I guess the figures speak for itself, but give us some context to this whole issue around this bill. If it should pass, I do know that you guys are wanting, your next step is you wanting Cyril Ramaphosa to sign it off if you don't make any headway. What is it going to mean for us, the ordinary person on the street? Why is this so important?
This bill is extremely important because it tinkers with the very lifeblood of our democracy, and that's the right to vote. And every person who is of South African citizenry over the age of 18 has the right to vote. And when you tinker with that aspect of your democracy, Vali Musa describes it as, in the case of this bill, someone driving a bus and then the bus suddenly is left driverless, and what will be the outcome of that? And from what we understand of this bill, and we've spoken to a couple of legal organizations and organizations who may well consider challenging it, is that it's fundamentally flawed. So it allows for independent candidates to stand at the national and provincial level of government, but it does so on an unfair basis. So, to give a few examples, a political party will require 1,000 signatures to stand before elections, but an independent candidate needs 8,000 signatures, and this is of people with ID numbers, and all of this has to be verifiable. And you can imagine how difficult that may be for a single person standing as an independent candidate to do. Secondly, if we look at how the votes are distributed, so if you, for example, as an independent candidate, need 50,000 votes to obtain a seat in parliament, and you get 250,000 votes, 50,000 votes goes to you, but 200,000 votes are then wasted. But in the
Oh,
wasting of those votes, actually a percentage of those votes then gets distributed to political parties. So you could be voting for an independent candidate, but your vote
right.
may well be going to a political party. And the way that the
Okay.
quota works is that it benefits the largest party.
Okay.
And there are several other examples of this through the bill, but at the heart of it is that we have a PR system at the moment, and we're trying to fit in independence into a PR system. And no matter how you turn those quotas around to try and make it fair, it's just not going to work very well. What we are putting on the table, and what Vali Musa, through a committee that was appointed by the Minister of Home Affairs, is saying, is that we must have a mixed proportional system and a mixed constituency system that is similar to our local government elections. So you vote for a party on a PR ballot, and then you have a second ballot where you vote for independent candidates or representatives who are standing as individuals from political parties and not whole political parties themselves.
And that would be the more fair way of voting for the person of your choice, or a very strong independent whom we believe would make a difference. Because, I mean, with the way things are playing out in the country right now, it almost seems as if all hope is lost as far as the larger political parties are concerned, because they are rife in corruption, and we need to take back our country, don't we?
Yes, I mean, it's important to state that, firstly, I think issues of corruption differs per political party. Some political parties may be able to make a case for themselves otherwise. However, what's important is that we agree that political parties are necessary in a democracy. It would be very difficult, for example, imagine if we had a parliament of 400 individuals from different parts of the country, all with different ideas on how to run the country. There'd never really be consensus. So
Absolutely.
you do need political parties. But at the same time, you should be able to have a representative in parliament that resonates with you, that you voted for from within your constituency or your ward. And you must be able to phone that parliamentarian up and say, this issue has come up before parliament. Why did you vote on it this way? You need to answer to us. As it stands, political parties are beholden to their parliamentarians are beholden to their political parties. So once they vote on something, they basically go back to their political party and they report. And if they don't vote a certain way, their parties ask them, why did you vote that way? There's very little coming back to communities, even at constituency offices, and saying, this is why we voted in a particular way. Also, the option that we are proposing, which is the Valley Musa majority option, is that there's there's greater room for public accountability. So what this option presents, it or opens room for is, for example, every 2.5 years, being able to review the work of these constituent individuals who are then elected to parliament, and saying you didn't perform on X, Y, and Z, and therefore we would be able to call for a by-election. So it's almost being able to put them on the spot to make sure that they are doing their work, as the community that they come from sees fit, or the constituency that they come from sees fit. And I think that is the basis for electoral reform, being able to hold someone accountable. This is important. I mean, if you look at the what happened with the Nkandla saga, for example, most parliamentarians voted at that time that Jacob Zuma did not have to pay for all of these unnecessary upgrades
Hmm.
to the House. And that was because they were beholden to the majority party.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And you can see where that kind of scenario left the public.
Absolutely. And of course, it landed up with you and I as taxpayers. We were responsible for footing that bill. That's really a very sore point, I think, with the majority of taxpayers in the country. Now, when we look at the this electoral amendment bill, Zaakirah, I see that unfortunately, some MPs have chosen to attack civil society organizations like yourselves, obviously, instead of engaging with the substance of the concern raised around the bill. And these crude attacks are obviously the antithesis of what debates and engagements should be premised on in our supposed vibrant constitutional democracy. Where does it leave you guys? And how do you then move forward? Do you feel threatened in any way?
I don't think that there were threats made to civil society organizations. I think we are disappointed that such remarks were made. They're really unfortunate, because it's easy to call someone as supporting a white supremacy agenda. It's easy to say you're being funded by so and so and so and so, and you're taking on their particular agenda without necessarily engaging with the substance of what the issue is. So you don't engage with what this bill is about, why it's flawed, why civil society organizations are saying flawed. You're not saying that we should talk about these issues, but you're simply accusing someone of something without really putting any substance to those claims as well. I think it's a tactic that we've seen repeatedly over the last few years in our democracy. So anyone that you don't agree with, you simply call them out for being supporting a white supremacy agenda, for example. I think it's really unfortunate, and it's regrettable. But I think it also speaks to the quality of MPs that we have. We do need MPs in Parliament that are able to engage with the substance of what's put before them, and not simply make such claims. And I hope that the political parties behind this as well reconsider their stance and are more open to engaging with civil society in the future going forward.
Okay, US Defend Our Democracy also go on to say that we will step up the campaign calling on President Cyril Ramaphosa to not sign off on the bill when it comes before him ahead of the December 10 deadline provided by the courts. Are you are you hopeful that that would in fact happen? Do you think he would really sign off? Very especially with the elective conference around the corner or just around about that time. That might just hurt him, will it not? With the at the elective conference. And I'm not hopeful. I don't know. You might think differently to me. And if he doesn't sign off, what's your next port of call?
So we asking the president not to sign off. Once he signs it, it becomes law in the country. If that does take place, and once if this bill is put into law, there are civil society organizations who will consider challenging it legally. Um, I think we would need to give consideration to that. If the president doesn't sign off, which is our call, I think that he should be congratulated for that. Our call to him is to not sign off because the bill is currently flawed. When, for example, in the last few months, people started putting pressure on the president to around the ministerial handbook to not ensure that MPs get further perks, for example.
Absolutely,
There
yeah.
was a sense that the president did, in fact, hear the calls being made and indicated that this decision would be reviewed. And we're hoping that a similar stance can be taken in this instance, that, logic, sense, and the ability to just hear the appeals from broader society is heard. This does entail from our side, though, is building up a broader societal campaign on this issue. We've found so many times in different settings that people have no idea that this bill was before Parliament, what it means, how it will affect their democratic rights in a way, as voters, or if they would like to stand as independent candidates. And that awareness is certainly something that we want to step up in the next month, leading to the December 10th deadline. Whether or not the president toes a political party line, because it's in a lead up to an elective conference of his particular political party. I don't think that's something I can comment on specifically, but I'm hoping that when he looks at this bill, he can do so as the president of the country and not as the president of a particular political party.
Zaakirah Vadi, for the Defend Our Democracy. Great work being undertaken by you guys indeed. Very proud of you all. Keep up the great work. And we will obviously be talking with you again sometime soon. Go well. Keep us in your duas and salamu alaikum to you.
Jazakallah, shukran, and thank you to the team. Assalamu alaikum.
That was Zaakirah Vadi. She is with Defend Our Democracy, and she also still continues some sterling work at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. It is exactly 8:40 a.m. News and views right here on Salam Media. Standing by to talk to us is Clyde Ramalane. He is a political analyst, and obviously we are going to be talking about the president's speech last night. He addressed the nation, did he not, regarding the outcomes of the Zondo Commission. So do stay with us.